it's real smooth. I fucking hit it. Ended on a hit. Ended on a hit.
Well, hello there.
Hello.
Is wind at your local range getting the best of your 12.5? Are you in need of more terminal ballistics and range capability versus your 5.56? Do you need a semi-automatic 308 because you'll never be able to touch Henry's M24 SWS Speedway Run?
Yes.
Do you need the absolute best 762x51 option available? If you've answered yes, and you figured out this isn't a just as good game we're playing, then behold, the HK MR762, the rifle I've named Harambe. Brief history. The HK MR762, of course, is the civilian variant of the HK 417, which has seen a lot of military service and has been adopted by the US military as the M110A1 CSAS, or Compact Semi-Automatic Sniper System, and the much more prevalent SDMR, which you can see the Army using now, the Squad Designated Marksman Rifle, with the super yucky Tango 6 1-6 LPVO on top of it. Just put a Night Force Attacker 1-8 on it, please. The specs. The weight as configured as seen in front of you, 12 pounds, 12.9 ounces, which is the stock, buttstock, pistol grip, and Geissele Rail with the Steiner T5 XI 3-15x50, riding in a Geissele Super Precision 20 MOA base 1.54 height mount, which on this swooped rail comes in at about a lower 1/3, as is standard on all of the MR series rifles. Your overall length with the stock fully collapsed is 35.94, call it 36 inches. With the stock fully extended, you're looking at 39.10 inches. The barrel is a 16.5 inch 4 lands and grooves, 1 in 12 twist, cold hammer forged, cannon grade steel, unlined, heavy profile with a short stroke gas piston system. The barrel itself being 16.5 inches, coupled with the muzzle device. Your effective length of the barrel is 18 inches, but again, 16.5 with your rifling. Your magazine capacity from the factory is 10 or 20 with the proprietary HK magazine, and those are the only offerings out there. HK doesn't want you using anything else. Taking a look at the barrel very quickly, I've removed the Geissele Rail. You'll notice that the barrel nut is very large. It's about almost 4¼ inches, which is very long for a barrel nut. You'll also notice a very heavy taper as the barrel starts extremely thick at the barrel nut and very progressively tapers towards the front. This is a BG date coded MR762, which means it's a 2016 model. I know a lot of the new variants are thinner, both for the new MR556s and MR762s allegedly. To save a little bit of weight, I actually prefer the thicker barrel. And if you want something with a little more aggressive twist, a 1 in 11 twist, you can get the LRP package versus the standard MR762. Those barrels have the 1 in 11 twist versus the 1 in 12. Now, taking a look at the gas piston system real quick, a short stroke gas piston doesn't move very much, but it is kind of short and violent. Some people don't like it. I found no real issues. And the recoil on this is pretty stout compared to a 5.56, but it's pretty tame compared to a 7.62 by 51 rifle. Couple more things before buttoning it up. The takedown tool is located in the rear of the buttstock. I'm doing this upside down, I can't see my viewfinder. And upside down. Taking it down is a real pain in the ass, and there is absolutely, I mean zero, upper and lower play. And taking this particular rifle apart is, you'll notice some of the marring up here, just on the finish. The pin itself is fine, there's no damaged metal or anything, but this pin right here is so miserable to get back in. And I know they say you can use the tip of a round. The thing of note with these pins is there's actually two steps in the detent. You have the first initial step, which will stop in the middle, and then you have the second step. So if you don't apply direct pressure, if you do it very quickly, it'll pop through, no problem. You usually experience this when you're first pushing it back together. So I cannot push this pin through. I have to relieve the pressure via the detent, and it'll come through no problem. But if you're not doing that, then you're gonna run into issues. Next thing I want you to look at is the extremely well machined and very heavy duty bolt carrier group. This is a monolithic piece that's all machined. You'll notice that the bolt has dual ejectors, which is outstanding, and a very strong extractor. So this is gonna very confidently pull out any casing, and I've had zero issues whatsoever with a failure to extract or eject. But these ejectors are very, very well sprung and very tough, and very confidence inspiring. You're gonna see this with most 7.62 by 51 or 308 AR-10s or anything like this, really. Very strong, excellent material, very smooth. Just an overall well-engineered bolt and bolt carrier. You'll notice that there are German proof markings on the bolt itself, if I can get it to focus. So the bolt and the bolt carrier come from Germany. The receivers and the barrel are finished here in the United States, so the blanks come from Germany. And I think Daniel Defense is still doing it. I don't know if they're still doing it or if they're sending it back to HK USA, I'm not sure, but Daniel used to do it. Everything on this is captive. Your firing pin, retaining pin is captive. And even when you pull that out, you can't take it out any further. The firing pin and firing pin spring will also be retained by this hook. So you have to pull the hook to take the firing pin and spring out. Like so. Make sure you get the spring when you're doing takedown and cleaning. This will come out ever so easily. And the bolt. You'll notice, once again, there's no metal gas rings on this. They're up forward in the piston cup thingy, not the striker part of the piston, but this part of the piston. And that's where they live. So this is a monolithic, well-machined piece. Every time I clean one of these, one, they clean up super fast, but it's just a marvel how well these are engineered and how solid this bolt is. All this extra material and just a very nice, well-made bolt. You'll probably shear a lug before you do anything, and even the lugs are very well machined and very heavy duty. So just an excellent piece of engineering. And the bolt's back together. You'll also notice that the bolt is under spring tension. So a little bit heavier to move versus the 5.56, but the 5.56 with the spring, you can feel the tension in the bolt. So excellent overall design. And while it's much different than what we're used to here in the States, it's very well made. One more thing before we jump to what it's good at and what it's bad at. I've swapped out the rail. I've had all three rails. I've had the key mod, the M-Lock, and now the Geissele Rail. The Geissele Rail is 1 ounce lighter than the HK rail. The HK M-Lock rail looked a lot like a Knight's URX4 rail, but much chonkier and was still a good rail, And switching to the Geissele Rail, the circumference is a little bit better and it's 1 ounce lighter. This is of course a Blemulo rail. I've got a little count on it. I really do like the rail. It feels very good, and you wouldn't think saving 1 ounce is a big deal, but it does feel lighter. Also, I have the Geissele trigger. Now, coming from a guy that loves Geissele stuff, I only run Geissele triggers, and all of my HKs, so 3 HKs, 2 MR556s and 1 MR762, all have Geissele rails, all have Geissele triggers. The MR556 Geissele triggers feel more of a requirement for me because it takes a whole pound to a pound and a half out of the trigger pull. And it's much smoother, better engagement. Not that the stock trigger is bad, it's a good 2-stage trigger, but it's around 5.5, 6 pounds. When you're trying to make super fine adjustments for accuracy and precision, on the 556, the stock trigger is a little less forgiving. So I really do feel on the 556 guns, the Geissele trigger is a requirement. I know it's very expensive. Trust me, for 3 rifles, I spent almost $3,000 on rails and triggers.
You what?
Moving to the 762 though, I don't necessarily feel that the 762 trigger by Geissele is much better than stock. For some reason, at least in my MR762, some other guys can chime in, but my MR762 is breaking right about 4.75 pounds versus what I switched this to with the Geissele. I'm sure as the Geissele wears in over time, it'll be smoother, but this Geissele wasn't a massive jump in trigger quality versus the 5.56 guns stock versus Geissele. So based on how your MR762 trigger breaks already, you may or may not really need the Geissele trigger. I'm happy I have it. It is slightly better. I don't know if it's $500 or $465, whatever it is. I got it on sale anyway. But whatever the cost of the trigger is, if it's worth maybe a half to a quarter of a pound based on what your trigger's breaking. I prefer a military trigger to be around 4.5 pounds, so I have a full power hammer spring, which this has. So this is in line with the Geissele SSA. But again, the stock trigger was pretty damn good, honestly. And the stock triggers, you'll be able to fire it and then put it back on safe. You lose that feature with the Geissele triggers. So just something to keep in mind. All right, what it's good at, what it's bad at. What it's good at, reliability. I have not had a single reliability issue. It's been absolutely reliable and a stellar performer, not just in my hands, but everybody else who's shot it. Accuracy. This gun has demonstrated that it's remarkably accurate. You can put it in my hands, put it in anybody else's hands, and they are able to produce the same results. I was able to push this rifle out to the furthest I've ever shot, which is 791 yards at JTAC with federal gold medal match 168 grain ammunition. 168s, they kind of die around 800 yards. So the fact that I was able to push a 16.5-inch barrel semi-automatic platform off a backpack, no bipod, no bags, a backpack that had magazines in it. It wasn't my, oh, I'm shooting precision today, let me put a couple hoodies in this backpack. It had all my shooting supplies for the day, and it was very angular. But I plopped this down on a backpack and was able to shoot out to 791 yards. The accuracy and the next point, the precision on this rifle is incredible. So long as you pair it with a premium round, I'm pretty sure even with some standard M80 ball, it would do some impressive things, but I can't speak to that because all I've fed it is premium ammunition. So federal gold medal match 168, Black Hills 168, and some Hornady Tap ELD match. So all 168s, which this gun seems to love, but I'm gonna switch to 175s here soon just because of how capable this rifle is. Moving on from accuracy and precision, this is a very well-built rifle. There's zero slop between the upper and lower. This does have a almost slant cut. In your AR-10s, you want the slant cut. Remember that. If it doesn't have the slant cut, it's not as good. But zero play upper and lower. Barrel nut is on there super tight. You cannot flex this barrel. There is no amount of force you can use with your hands. I don't care if you're Pat Mack, Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime, you cannot flex this barrel. You'll probably bend the rail before you move the barrel. It's remarkably rigid, which probably lends to the incredible accuracy and precision I'm able to get out of this platform. And this isn't even the LRP. This is the 1 in 12 twist barrel. Expanding on the barrel, this profile is perfect, I think. I much prefer the thicker barrels, and for a 16.5 inch 762 by 51 or 308 to go that far is incredible. A lot of guys see the 16.5 inch barrel length and think 308 762 is the same as 556. It's not. 308 16.5 is very akin to somewhere between a 12.5 and 14.5 as far as 556 performance. So it is not considered optimum. To get optimum performance, you really need somewhere in the 20 inch to 24 inch. That's why you see most bolt actions are 24 inches and have a 1 in 10 twist for maximum accuracy with the 175 grain long range precision ammo. There's the Juggernaut round, which I don't have access to right now, and some other cool stuff out there, but a tipped 175 or a Sierra Match King 175 really benefits from a 24 inch barrel. 20 inches is still pretty good, but 16.5 is considered a shorter barrel for a 308, so you're not getting optimum performance. And for this rifle to get out to 791 yards on 168 grain, to get, I went 2 for 10, nothing crazy, but I'm a regular guy. The wind was messing with me so much so that you could hold the reticle on the same point and get different hits. So going 2 for 10 at that distance with no bags, no bipod, off a backpack full of dumb shit is really incredible. And I attribute that to the barrel. Even with the thick barrel, it's light for what it is. This rifle's fully loaded weight is a few ounces less than my MR556, which I also attribute to me using the steel HK magazines, and the Geissele SMR rail is thicker than this rail. But they're about on par when I load it with a PMag full of 30 rounds of 77 grain TMK for reference. But for an AR-10 style rifle to come in at 12 pounds, 12.9 ounces is pretty incredible. Now I'm gonna mess that up when I put the OKW on the front and the bipod. I'm gonna be using an Atlas bipod, but having those on there will push it over 13 pounds, but quite frankly, it's very wieldy and you can shoot it standing without issue. Which is pretty incredible when you think about it. I'm also gonna visit the finish. I don't know about the new finishes, because I've seen some complaints about the new HK finishes. They're starting to look like knights. But these older HK MR762s, this finish is incredible. My brass deflector has one tiny chip on it, and this thing has 3,000 rounds through it. So, of high quality ammunition, which means a full power powder charge. We're not talking about under pressured, under loaded stuff. We're not talking about mixed velocity batches. We're talking Black Hills, Federal Gold Medal match, and Hornady tap ELD. And the finish is fine. There's no scratches, just a very tiny little, which you can kind of see, little dot of missing finish for all those rounds. Granted, I'm not mag dumping into trash because this is a precision instrument, but I have shot it pretty quick sometimes, and some of my friends have shot it pretty quick also. First to the last 2 points. A top performer in anyone's hands. 20 plus people have shot this rifle. I've allowed many people to get behind it. My father, who's no spring chicken, and a bunch of other people have gotten behind this rifle and loved it. They've also been able to be just as accurate as I am with it, which speaks to the rifle's capability and how I have it set up. Florida Man has taken it out to 616 and 791 as well. The 12.5 guy at JTAC also shot it really well. Pretty much anyone I give this rifle to gets hits with it, and it's really speaks to how well it's built, it shoots, and how repeatable the precision and accuracy capabilities are out of this rifle. So to be able to give it to a bunch of randoms and they do just as well with it or better than me, like this fine gentleman, Vor 1998's friend, and Vor 1998 shot it well also, but his friend outshot both of us. Very humbling experience. And because of that, the last point, what it's best at, what it's perfect for, is how I use it. It's a perfect DMR or CSAS. Very repeatable, very accurate, loves the heavy grain weight bullets, and just gets it done. For a 16.5-inch barrel, I keep stressing that. I don't think people understand how important that is. Because a lot of AR-10s are 18-inch barrels, and this is a 16.5-inch barrel dunking on some of those offerings. All right, what it's bad at. It's proprietary. Now, an uncomfortable truth for a lot of AR-10s in 7.62 by 51 and some 6.5s, all AR-10s are proprietary in some way.
Fuck.
It doesn't have the interchangeability of AR-15s, and that's what turns a lot of people off. You have to dedicate yourself to a supply system, which is annoying because two of them are foreign manufactured in your LMT and MR762, and the third option, Knight's Armament, is prohibitively expensive now, and you can't even get them. So the parts have dried up, all sorts of other stuff. So in my opinion, the only three AR-10s worth having, the HK MR762, the Knight's SR25, and the LMT Mars H, are all expensive and hard to source parts for. This is not a cheap man's game, and it gets really annoying when you have to wait on supply drops and how the internet's turned into Gunbroker, or you have nanoseconds to get your cart ready and check out before 100 other people for 2 parts. But that's the world we live in now. So supply is a thing, and all of these being proprietary is also a thing. Now I know some of you will say, but, a lot of companies are using DPMS. Yes, a lot of companies to maintain the supply chain have gone to Knight's / DPMS pattern for magazines, but that doesn't change the internals. So very important to keep an eye on that, and AR-10s are very finicky to the point where some people for a while had said that the AR-10 platform is not reliable. It's more, you have to make sure you're getting the proper parts for your setup and your platform. Magazines. For the MR762, almost everything has to do with the magazine. They don't drop free. Because they're plastic, they tend to expand. Not my favorite. Magpul with the PMag has found a way to make a magazine that doesn't really swell in their Gen M3s, and they drop free. I think there's a converter or something out there for these HKs, but by and large, you're running the stock magazine, it doesn't drop free. It's easier when you're in a prone position, but when you're standing running it, you better be ready to strip the magazine and reload it. The magazines are chonk. They're very thick, and they don't fit almost any magazine carriers out there. Good luck finding one. The only two I've been able to find are Blue Force Gear, which I have and use for belt. They're the, I forget what they call them, 10 speeds, but they've gotten out of making those. And Spirit of Systems also makes a placard for their plate carrier. Not a lot of options. I'm hoping with time and the proliferation of the SDMR in military circles that more options will be available, but because of how thick the magazine is, you're not going to be able to carry 4 across your chest. It's not going to happen. So some 308 options or AR-10 options, like an M14 magazine or the PMags or whatever, you might be able to get a carrier that'll fit 3 or 4 across your chest. With this one, most of what I've seen are 2, and there's the Spirit of System is 3, and there's a lot of airsoft rigs out there. I do not trust the airsoft gear, so you really are limited on options.
Fuck.
Still on the magazines, hard to find because of course they are. HK makes batches. They make batches of P30L threaded barrels or P30 threaded barrels, or the guns themselves. Same thing with the magazines. My favorite AR-15 magazine, which a lot of you are gonna think I'm crazy, are the HK magazines, the Gen 2 with the maritime followers. They're bulletproof. You can keep them loaded forever, they drop free always, and they're very tough. But they make those in batches. Same thing with these magazines. Always made in batches, very annoying. So they're expensive. The cheapest that I've purchased these, and I've purchased over 25 of these magazines.
You what?
Is $50, and the most I've paid is $100, with a general average of $75. I bought a majority of the magazines when they were $50, but they fluctuate, and it is what it is. It's the same with any other parts now. So the magazine is a massive source of headache for this platform. If you see them for 50 bucks, buy as many as you can afford and stock them to the roof like I did. And good luck finding a carrier for it. The next point, because of the unlined barrel, this is not good for a battle rifle. A lot of guys out there are gonna try to press a battle rifle into a precision roll and a precision rifle into a battle rifle roll. The reason for this is, for better or for worse, is the AR-15 market has gotten so good that you have a lot of offerings that have cold hammer forged chrome lined barrels that are able to shoot 1 MOA or better. You also have nitride barrels, which are remarkably precise. So the AR-15 market has generated guns that you can use for both, quite frankly. You make a general purpose rifle, very accurate, very precise. AR-10s have not done that. You would be very hard pressed. I really think there are some, not all, there are some SR-25s out there that shoot sub MOA. They don't all shoot sub MOA, and matching the round that it likes is different. All these guns have different preferences, and you can have 10 barrels and they'll like 10 different things, or some combination therein. The reason this happens a lot, and the same with me, I have one AR-10 platform, and it's the MR762. I have one in my safe, and I have one bolt action in 308. I have 12 ARs. So a lot of people do the same thing I did, where they have a lot of precise ARs that have different barrels, and they're still damn good. But with a battle rifle, you need a very heavy duty barrel that's chrome lined and ready to get beat on, and it's not going to be as accurate as one of these precision barrels. On the other side of that coin, you have this precision rifle, which is not going to do well as a battle rifle. You'll also find that most of these, their military variants, don't like going in full auto very well. The SCAR hates it, the FAL hates it, 417 hates it. I don't know if I've seen a Knights in full auto. So all these guns don't like going in full auto for a reason. And they just don't work well full auto. So in my opinion, me personally, I love battle rifles. I love the concept of battle rifles. But for me, I'm gonna lean on a precision platform with 308 to maximize my effectiveness at distance versus having a battle rifle. So some guys will buy these, realize setting it up as a DMR or CSAS is too expensive, so they go the battle rifle route. I'll tell you, it's much easier to get one of these and throw an EOTech on it and a light than it is to set it up with a bipod, a big optic like I have it, the Geissele trigger, and the Geissele rail. So people will do that math and come to that conclusion, which makes sense, but it's not necessarily the most viable. The next point's a short one. All aftermarket accessories are expensive because there's not a lot of options. And really, the only ones that you're gonna wanna get anyway are the Geissele parts. So you wanna spend $1,000 or $1,200 by the time you get all three pieces with the charging handle, which I don't have yet, I'm still waiting for, the rail and the trigger. Or do you wanna just run stock, which most people do? Limited muzzle devices for suppressors, again, very limited, and the only ones you're really gonna wanna run are Surefire or OSS. And with that, there's no ability to adjust the internals for suppressed use. You might be able to change the buffer spring. I haven't really looked too hard into that. Someone might make one, but it's really difficult to find parts that you need to run this thing suppressed. So you gotta just throw something on there and hope it can take it.
Shut it down!
Next, what it's bad at, there are very few of these in circulation. Again, HK makes batches and that's it for the year. Sometimes there's 2 batches, one every 6 months, or you catch one where they made one in February and there's one in October. But typically, especially with the rifles, there's 1 batch and that's it. The higher cost the item, the less batches there are. So MR762s, Mark 23s, so on and so forth, less batches. Because there's less consumers. And lastly, this is not cheap at all. But honestly, what AR-10 platform is? There's some that you can get into relatively inexpensively, comparatively, and build out. And sometimes you're going to lose on certain performance capabilities, but you can get into the AR-10 game cheaper than an MR762. Are you reliably going to repeat the accuracy that this thing has, which is 0.65 to 0.75 MOA repeatedly? I don't know. And some of you don't shoot past 100 yards anyway, so you don't see the benefit, and I'm talking to a wall. Wrapping it up. This is hands down my most expensive rifle. With everything included, it's very easily $6,000, and I'm not even done with outfitting it yet. I don't know what price you can reliably find these for in the 2023 market. Same thing with the optics and everything else, I don't know. I don't pay full price for things, and I didn't pay full price for this rifle. I think I paid $3,300 in 2016 money. So they were going for $35, I got a deal, I jumped on it. And another point I'd like to make, which some of you might roll your eyes at, but when pressed in 2016 with the possibility of only being able to buy 1 gun before the election, this was what I bought with extra magazines. I had all the options available to me in the world, and this is what I bought in the summer of 2016. This rifle has never owed me anything because of that, but it has performed like it did owe me something throughout the entire round count. Like I said earlier, consistently produces 0.65 to 0.75 MOA on a steady diet of 168 grain performance ammunition. Mostly federal gold medal match, but I've put a couple of cases of Black Hills and a case of Hornady Tap ELD match through it. And now I'm gonna push into 175 grain, so I'm gonna start stocking Black Hills and federal gold medal match 175 grain. This rifle gave me a solid, reliable platform to learn and develop on. The consistent performance I could count on to become a better shooter in general, but also refine my long-range precision skill set. And again, my regular guy ass put this thing on a backpack full of random shit and got out to 791 yards. I'm a regular guy, and I was able to do that with the right equipment in the trigger and the optic and the ammunition, as well as this rifle right here. I know this rifle is expensive. I counted every dollar that came out of my account to buy it, trust me. Same thing with the optics, same thing with the trigger, same thing with the rail. I know a lot of guys in the comments are gonna say, I'd love to get one, but too expensive. I get it, I really do. But I can't tell you the peace of mind that I have being able to grab this rifle, whether it's out of the safe or out of my range bag or whatever, get behind it and do some of my best work at long range. Reliable, confidence-inspiring, best work. HK, as always, delivers. My MR556 does a phenomenal job, and this is the big brother, and it does just as well, if not better. If you need a precision semi-automatic AR-10 style rifle that is solid, reliable, well-made, and a proven performer, it's easy for me to recommend the HK MR762, aka Harambe. As always, thanks for watching. Take care out there.